Welcome to Greater Good Radio Hawaii, where leaders inspire leaders. Greater Good Radio Hawaii is dedicated to social entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Evan Leong, and with me is my co-host, Carrie Leong.
Mahalo, Evan. Today's guest is U.S. Congressman Neil Abercrombie. Please welcome to Greater Good Radio, U.S. Congressman Neil Abercrombie. Welcome to our show, Congressman.
Thank you, mahalo.
So in your own words, what does a congressman do?
It's an interesting invitation that you folks sent to come on the show, Evan and Carrie, because when you provided me with the memo about the interview, you put down the main objectives, and if you don't mind, I kind of recite them for the audience.
Sure.
Maybe some folks are tuning in for the first time, or maybe some folks have tuned in for a while, but maybe don't remember some of these things. The reason for me being in Congress, when I thought about it, had a lot to do with what your objectives are. And what you said was to promote a social vision where community support and business go hand in hand, to inspire others that might want to start a business, to educate those already in business, to highlight successful Hawaii entrepreneurs to the world, and to entertain the listeners with interesting experiences and advice, starting from the back and the last and working backwards. Politics in many instances is entertainment in that regard. And what I mean by that is that one of the first things I learned when I got into the political side, electoral side of politics, the reason I got in the first place, the things I cared about always ended up at the political door. Civil rights, justice for everybody, non-discrimination, those kinds of things that motivated me as a young person, because I'd grown up, for example, as a Protestant in a Catholic city. And I understood what discrimination was, even though I was a haole, a Caucasian in those days, and everybody around me was. There was differentiations made. If you were the wrong religion, boy, people found out about it. They found out about it because of your name. My name was Abercrombie. That's a Scottish name. And all the names around me were like Ozinski and Bon Giovanni, Polish and Irish and Italian. Abercrombie didn't fit in. And so right away they would be able to tag you, oh, you're not a Roman Catholic. Now, to a lot of people in Hawaii, so what? It doesn't make a difference. But in the city I grew up in the East Coast of the United States, it made a big difference. So right away, even as a little child, I understood that there were differences with people. And when I was a little kid, my parents would drive through neighborhoods, and sometimes there'd be all black people. And I would wonder, why were all those people in one place, but they weren't near where I lived? And, of course, as I got a little older, I figured, well, they were made to stay. We segregated, had segregated society. So I had all these things in my mind as I was growing up about discrimination. And so over and over again, it would come down to politics. You had to have the votes. They made decisions. So one of the things I learned about that, about speaking about entertaining then, in that, say, all those serious things, how could it be entertaining? One of the things I learned from great actors and great entertainers, you take like Don Ho, everybody always asks him to sing Tiny Bubbles, right? Or I'ilavi with Gabby Pa'anui, right? They'd always be asked to sing. And they'd always do it with great enthusiasm. They always do it with a lot of verve, with a lot of vitality. And that's because in politics, you have to be as enthusiastic and as interested in reaching out to the person you're talking to and you're being with and you're trying to influence the 865th time as you were the first time. Just like with your show, you sent me a list of 40, 50, 60 people already that you've interviewed. You have to be just as interested in me, this is the first time for my interview, right, as you were with the first 2, 3, or 4, whatever it was, if you're going to succeed. All great entertainers, all great actors, all great politicians are able to have the replication of emotion. You have to be able to repeat your emotion. You have to be as enthusiastic that 957th time as you were the first time. And if you can do that, like Sammy Davis Jr., I remember when he came out for their Variety Club and did a show at the Hilton, a New Year's Eve show. He came to a luncheon for benefit of Variety Club community projects, just like you're talking about here, community support, social vision. Now, how many thousand times do you suppose Sammy Davis Jr. did some kind of a luncheon or some kind of a benefit performance? And yet when he came to that luncheon, you'd have thought that was the first time he'd ever been invited anywhere. You'd have thought that he couldn't have been more grateful for the opportunity to come and spend some time with total strangers out in Honolulu after doing a couple of really tough shows. And I thought, what a professional. What a great guy. And so it's the same thing. I feel that I have to be just as enthusiastic in making my presentation today, because I'll be reaching out to a group of people who maybe have never heard me before, never heard me speak personally before. And this program gives me the opportunity. And so I think it's very, very important that if you're in business, you have to have that repetition of emotion. How often have you seen, particularly in a small business, what we call a small business these days, and what we really mean is personal business, where if you succeed or fail is up to you more than anything else, and the staff that you have with you. If you don't have the enthusiasm, if you don't have the commitment, if you aren't willing to put out each time as if it was the first time, how do you expect anybody working for you to do it? Now, that might sound like a cliche, but it's true. It's something that you have to do. And if you don't do it, you can probably find every day in business where somebody answers on the phone and you can hardly hear what they're saying. They're obviously not interested. They could care less. So I feel very, very strongly that what you have here about reaching out to the community, having a vision, being entertaining, trying to be inspirational, educate those people, all of that fits in, and you have to do it every day, not because it's a burden or a duty, because you want to do it. You want to succeed. If your message is good, if you believe in what you're doing, if you're in a business and when you're reaching out to people, or like you're doing with your radio show here, of trying to inspire other people and to motivate them, then you've got to believe in it, or it's not going to work. And I say the same thing with all politicians.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more on Greater Good Radio.